We're going to talk about the controversy over the T-shirts at something called Springfest in Grand Forks this hour. Is this racist? Is the question I've been asking. Stupid, yes. Racist, I don't think so. But we're welcoming your opinions on that and also what to do about it. A student group, the Native American, American Indian Student Service Center, the students there want some action. They were angry and frustrated that the university had failed to take any disciplinary action against the students who wore these T-shirts. Mentioned this last hour, and this has been a focus of a lot of social media attention. Siouxper Drunk is the T-shirt, and then there's a depiction, not a logo that was ever used by the school, but a Native American chief with a beer bong on the T-shirt, and they were worn by students and some non-students at something called Springfest off campus at a event not sanctioned by the university. So we're going to talk about that. First, from the perspective of some folks that have covered this story. One, a Native American journalist, Ruth Hopkins, with the Last Real Indian blog, and then Rob Porter, the Say Anything blog, from two different perspectives on this today on the program. To the T-shirt debate, we welcome to the program Ruth Hopkins from Last Real Indian. Hello, Ruth.
Good morning.
And Rob Porter, the Say Anything blog. Rob, welcome back. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, so Ruth, first of all, I'm very serious when I ask this question. This doesn't seem racist to me. Seems dumb, stupid, offensive. Wouldn't have done it, wouldn't have worn it, wouldn't have designed it. But is this racism in this T-shirt?
Many people in the Native American community seem to think so, and I agree. It singled out a group of Native American people, specifically those commonly called Sioux, which are Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota people. And specifically, it's a very derogatory, negative stereotype that's being perpetuated through this shirt, and it's being done by University of North Dakota students.
You first heard about this how? Tell us how you broke this story.
Actually, some residents and tribal members from the Spirit Lake Nation Reservation, which are Dakota people, and it's the closest reservation to UND and the Grand Forks, North Dakota area, contacted me via Facebook, and they posted the picture on my wall, and they were understandably outraged over the picture, and they wanted me to take a look at it, see if I could find out any information about it and what is this pertaining to and why are they doing this. But people were upset.
This story, by the way, has gone viral. It's become picked up by a few national websites as well. Rob, what's your take on it?
Well, I agree with you, Scott, that the T-shirts were dumb, and I think the product of a group of immature college students who, frankly, should have known better. But I worry that we were kind of, crying wolf about some of these issues where we're constantly, saying, well, this is racist and we ought to, crack down and everything else. I've seen similar shirts to this targeting Irish people on St. Patrick's Day, where you have a T-shirt that says drunk level Irish. I mean, the Irish have a long history of being mistreated in the United States. They were treated as slave labor at one point in our country. They were derided. As a matter of fact, the term paddy wagon is intended as a slur against the Irish. So it seems odd to me that we have this double standard, and frankly, I think it's all in poor taste. But we seem to have this double standard where if we perpetuate a negative stereotype of one group of people, it's all in good fun, and everybody does it on St. Patrick's Day, and it's hilarious. You perpetuate it of another group of people, and suddenly we want, crackdowns. We actually have a student in the UND student government who's running for the state legislature as a Democrat, Kyle Thorson, who actually put in a bill, a resolution in the student government that would prohibit any member of the student government from expressing support for the Fighting Sioux nickname, which I think you and I both know, Scott, even a lot of members of the actual Sioux community support the nickname. So, sometimes I worry that we have some double standards, and I worry that we get obsessed over these sort of small issues, what I would say crying wolf, when really there are larger issues that we ought to be talking about.
What about that point, Ruth?
Well, for one thing, I'm not Irish, so I can't speak to, whether or not Irish people should be offended. But there's other components. I mean, for one thing, we're not talking about Native American people making shirts mocking Irish, and another thing is UND has a history with the Fighting Sioux logo, and one of the students that had the shirts made admitted on his Twitter that the head was meant to be the mascot, and he wanted the beer bong put in the mascot head. So, it was purposely done. And this is not the only incident that's happened at UND. There's a long history of kind of racially motivated incidents that have occurred. And, I'm concerned with the students that are there, the Native American students, and also non-Native American students. This is not conducive to a good learning environment to have this, this kind of racially motivated issues going back and forth. They're there to learn. They have other concerns that they should focus on. And there are a lot of other issues, but this is a serious issue on its own because alcoholism is a serious problem in Indian country. And it's definitely not something that we should make fun of. Cirrhosis, chronic liver disease, it's the number 5 cause of death among Native Americans. And so it's not funny. We have that issue that we're dealing with as a community. Not to mention, not all Native Americans drink. It's not something that's part of our culture. And there's a lot of Native American people and Sioux people, quote unquote, that don't imbibe and don't abuse alcohol. So, for all of those reasons, I don't think we're overreacting. I think this is something that needs to be dealt with so we don't have to see this happen again and again.
Okay, and I'd like you, when we come back, to define dealt with. What should happen as a result of this? The University of North Dakota has issued a statement, Robert Kelly, as well as Larry Scogan, the university system chancellor. In the case of the president, he noted that Springfest isn't a university event and isn't on university property, and also that it's unknown how many of the people actually were students that wore the shirts. That being said, he said he was appalled. Larry Scogan called it... said the students showed ignorance, intolerance, and hatefulness, and condemned him as well. When we come back, more with Rob Port and of the Say Anything blog, and as well Ruth Hopkins from The Last Real Indian on the T-shirt controversy.
Serving the Northern Plains, this is What's on Your Mind. Back to more of your calls straight ahead.
Yes, I'd like to leave a comment about the Drunken Indian logo. That would, in my opinion, be very offensive. I attended the Crazy Horse Memorial down there, in South Dakota, and the gentleman, the Indian man, Native American, doing the spiritual dance said that the average age of the Lakota tribesmen, male, is 35 years old. They have a bad problem with alcohol. They have been new to alcohol since the Anglo-Saxons invaded this country, a few hundred years ago. It's had a really hard impact on them. Watching Family Guy one evening, I noticed that they said, South Dakota's mascot is Drunky, and it showed a Native American. Very offensive. Now, if they had a prairie dog drunk on their T-shirt, fine. But as long as you're going to put any particular race on the shirt, it's insultive. I would say it would be insultive for Irish to have an Irish person on there. It's insultive to have an Indian person on it. They don't fare well to alcohol. I think it's more than just my opinion. I think it's pretty much you're going to find that across the board, especially with Native Americans. Thank you.
Appreciate the call.
That's all I have to say.
All right, that's one opinion. Here's another.
I think the American people are getting sick of this. It's just kind of BS to me that everybody's got to worry about their feelings getting hurt. You can't even tell a Norwegian joke anymore or a Polish joke. Give me a break.
Appreciate the comments. Margie sends a note, says, where we all think alike, no one thinks very much. I think we all need to step back on this overused word racist. It really is getting to the point it doesn't mean much anymore. When I hear it anymore, I just roll my eyes. 800-228-0550 to weigh in. We have two guests on opposite sides of this topic. A reporter with a blog called The Last Real Indian. Native American journalist Ruth Hopkins is here, and Rob Porter of the Say Anything blog. We, before the break, had Ruth telling us this needed to be dealt with, and I wanted to give her a chance to talk about what that means. Before I do that, let's get one more call in here from Charlie at 800-228-0550 in Fargo. Go ahead, Charlie.
Hey, I just want to say that my great-great-grandfather is Chief Gabriel Renville of the Wapanan Sisseton tribe, and I don't think this is racist at all. These kids were having fun, and actually they're showing a little bit of school spirit because a lot of kids, and my grandfather, George Renville, was proud of the Sioux logo. And just a little information on, if you look up the term Sioux, it was actually a derogatory term given to describe the Lakota people by the Chippewa, and I think if I remember right, it means like lower than a snake in the grass. So this is all goofy. I think these are kids just having fun, being a little dumb, yeah, maybe a little insensitive, but maybe we're starting to become oversensitive to this stuff. And one more note, my grandfather, thank goodness he left the reservation and allowed his family to be fairly successful. His two sisters that left were RNs, and his other brother was a real estate developer in California. The ones that lived on the reservation all died of alcoholism, all died poor people. So to say the reservations are the answer, that's a joke too. The Indians need to get off the reservations if they want to be successful in this world.
All right, and by the way, I might add that Facebook has a mixture of Native American opinions on both sides of this as well. Charlie, appreciate the call, and I want to give you a chance to respond to what he said, Ruth.
Well, actually, Gabriel Renville is a distant relative of mine as well. So, if he's speaking correctly, I can say that's also within my bloodline. I'm Siouxper Drunk, Dakota, and I actually reside on the Lake Traverse Reservation, and I'm a judge. And I do not drink alcohol as a choice. It's against my spiritual beliefs. And there are many others like me. So, he has, kind of a skewed representation of Native Americans living on the reservation, even the one that he's purportedly from. So, I just have to say that. I'm also a University of North Dakota graduate, and I earned a solid education there. I respect the institution itself. And I still have a lot of friends and colleagues that, either go there or are affiliated with it. So, as far as that's concerned, he's putting out some misconceptions there. And there are Native Americans that disagree on this issue as well, just like with the mascot issue. That's been that way since the beginning. But I can speak for, myself and others like me who think it is negative and agree with the NCAA decision that it's hostile and abusive. And there was evidence submitted, there was affidavits submitted that supported that.
Rob, have you noticed too that there seems to be a mixture of opinion on the Native American side on this?
Yeah, certainly I've sensed that. I think everybody has. The Native American community is one that's diverse in thought, like any community. But I think, Scott, one of your callers made a really good point where I think we're using the accusation of racism so much. I worry that we're going to dilute the word, that so many people are going to have been accused of racism who aren't actually racist, and that we're going to, I think, obscure maybe actual problems with racism. I mean, people are going to be unwilling to talk about this issue because people crying wolf all the time are going to have abused the accusation. And again, yeah, the T-shirt was insensitive. I think the people who made it were probably intending it to be provocative. But here's the funny thing about living in America. You don't have a right not to be offended. People sometimes say offensive things. They say provocative things. And we're allowed to do that in this country. And we should be allowed to do it. And I think we need to be very, very careful of these people who, in the name of civility or in the name of combating perceived racism or anything else, want to silence people. And again, I would go back. There's a resolution before the Student Senate at UND to try to silence people from even supporting the logo and mascot, which many Native Americans themselves support. So I think, if you want to say, hey, that shirt offends me, fine. I think if you want to take an additional step and say, I want to start instituting policy to prevent people from doing stuff like this and punishing them for doing it, boy, I think that's a bridge too far in a free society.
Ruth, what do you think should happen? You said earlier that this ought to be dealt with. What does dealt with mean? What should happen here?
Well, I would like to know who he says these people are, for one thing. I think, you can't... Free speech is all well and good. Obviously, I believe in free speech, and I practice it myself. Hate speech is another matter. And also, just because you give your opinion doesn't mean that you're protected from any consequences that come
it's
from
free
giving your
speech
opinion.
until you're offended. It's free speech until you get offended, and then you can silence it.
People have a right to be offended. And also, when you're talking about an institute of higher education, that's another dynamic, because you're talking about people who are there to go to college.
I always thought that institutes of higher education should be centers of free expression and speech, even provocative speech. The First Amendment doesn't exist to protect you and I sitting around talking about the weather. It exists to protect the most unpopular, most insensitive, most racist sort of speech. That's why we have the First Amendment, because unpopular speech is exactly the sort of speech that needs protection, and it should be protected more so on university campuses than anywhere else, which sadly is not the trend these days.
Well, people can say what they want, but they can also respond to that speech. Plus, UND has a student code of life, and they have discriminatory policy in place to protect other students from being attacked because of their race and because of their...
Who was attacked? Who did the T-shirt attack or discriminate against?
Hang on, you two. We'll pick this up on the other side of the break. Linda in West Fargo wants to weigh in. Steve in Fargo, too. Others welcome at 800-228-0550. This hour brought to you by our friends at the North Dakota Farm Bureau, bringing ag home. More on this debate when we continue.
Your mind. So call and tell us at 800-228-0550 or 701-258-0550.
Continue our conversation now. 800-228-0550. We're chatting with Native American journalist Ruth Hopkins from The Last Real Indian. Broke the story of the T-shirt controversy at Springfest this weekend, which is an event that happens in Grand Forks, actually not associated with the school, University of North Dakota, nor is it on school property, but it's obviously well attended by students of the University of North Dakota. And Rob Porter, the Say Anything blog, a lot of social media discussion on this, and here today as well. More welcome at 800-228-0550. Okay, so you two were going back and forth before we had to go to break. Don't know exactly where we're at, but I think, Rob, you asked a question of Ruth of who the T-shirts, what was the question again specifically? Who does the T-shirt harm?
Well, she said that the T-shirts were attacking and discriminatory. They're just T-shirts. And you can deal with them by ignoring them and choosing not to wear one and choosing to avoid people who are wearing them. The idea that this is some sort of an attack or discriminatory is frankly a little ridiculous.
Go ahead, Ruth.
It is a form of harassment, and it's based on race. It's a Native American head. It says Siouxper Drunk with SIOUX on it, per drunk. And so it is singling out Native American people, and specifically people commonly known as Sioux. And why should anybody be singled out because of their race or ethnicity, especially in an environment where they're supposed to be attending college? Native American students should not have to.
If you don't like the T-shirt, then don't wear one and don't look at them. When Bill Maher says offensive things about Christians or about people who are like me, I change the channel. When some comedian says offensive things that I don't like about my, heritage or my background, I don't listen to them. That's how you deal with it. But
is that enough? Is that enough? Is that enough, Ruth? Because you view the T-shirt as a form of harassment. Is it enough just to say, look away, ignore, forget? I mean,
no, I don't think so. And, specifically because we're talking about the University of North Dakota here that has the history with the race-based mascot of the Fighting Sioux, that this needs, like I said before, to be dealt with. And it should be allowed.
There's a history of a race-based mascot that when a reservation community voted on it, voted in favor of it. I don't think we can automatically say that the mascot has a racist history. Let me inject
one other thing in here about the making and the wearing of these T-shirts. Could these students, Ruth, be saying that they are Sioux? In other words, they're students of the University of North Dakota, and the name once was Sioux, and they're the ones that are super drunk. Not necessarily reflecting it, meaning any harassment towards anyone else, but rather taking this upon themselves. Is there anything to that?
Well, there's another component to this, and that's what the students who are involved and who wore the shirts and had them made have been saying online. And that would lead a lot of people to believe that these were specifically directed at Native American people. They've said some racist comments. People have done a lot of screenshotting of various things that they've said pointed at Native American people. So, they haven't said anything specifically about, I'm just talking about myself, or, they haven't said that. They've said that it's meant to be the mascot. There was a comment posted on Daily Cost from one of the students who refers to himself as Sue Sam, talking about Native Americans not getting their welfare checks or something to that effect. So this, it's a continual back and forth where they're putting this information out, and, it's not very smart. They're making themselves look very bad, and it is racist.
Let's take some calls for
another component.
All right, I'm going to get some calls in here from our listeners. Linda, West Fargo, for our guests. Go ahead. You're on What's on Your Mind.
Hi. I just want to make a couple comments. The first one is my husband is an adult child of an alcoholic, and he's tried really, really hard to get past some of the images of his dad being the town drunk. We've got college students that have come off the reservation. They're trying to make positive changes in the lifestyle of their people, of themselves, and a lot of times that does not involve alcohol. They're trying to raise up the standard of living for themselves and for their people, and to have an image of their family group put on a T-shirt that's so derogatory to the lifestyle that they're wanting to have. It's shameful. It's not illegal. It's just shameful.
Appreciate the call, Linda. Steve.
We should say the same thing then about Irish T-shirts. People celebrating Irish drunkenness, as though Irish people never struggle with alcoholism or anything like that. If that's the standard, then let's ban St. Patrick's Day.
Steve in Fargo, your comment. You're next on What's on Your Mind.
Well, this all started, I thought the Fighting Sioux logo was proud for the Native Americans, but since we banned that, this is going to go on for the next. Some boneheads do off campus. Who even cares?
And Rob, I think that's in a nutshell your point, right? I mean, the boneheads, stupid move, but who cares? Why give them attention?
I think at some point we've got to stop promoting victimhood. If we want people to stop being victims, stop promoting victimhood.
And I would also add to Steve's point.
Victimhood. This is about accountability.
Accountability for the students?
Yes, and the institution. And I know that, President Kelly released a statement saying, and I applaud his statement. He said a lot of good things that I agree with. But Springfest, legally, they can say it's not a UND event, but it is affiliated with UND. I mean, students attend it. It's held in University Park. A lot of people call it UND Springfest. Students are involved in the organization of it. So, it is affiliated. So, there should be some kind of action that takes place where the Native American students feel protected from this kind of behavior happening anymore.
By the way, I did want to weigh in on what Steve said, the history of how the University of North Dakota became to be known as the Fighting Sioux does go of the Sioux Nation tribes asking to honor them by using the name. That happened in the 30s. There was a ceremony. The elders were on campus. So you're right. Many in the Native American community then and still do believe this is a distinction of honor. Others obviously don't.
Many.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't say many. There are some that do, including, I have some relatives that are fine with it. I'm personally not. It's a divided issue in the community.
Anyway, I tell you what, I think quite honestly, the minority is the loud voices who have been against it, but that's probably a debate for another day. Steve near Dickinson, you're next for our guest on What's on Your Mind. Go ahead.
Hey, Scott, I barely know where to start. First, let's start with the facts that you just represented. That name was given to the university by the elders of the Sioux tribe, honoring them. And you look at treaties and other things that were signed with Indian tribes. There's a long history of some really bad things happening, but this was one good thing that the University of North Dakota did for the Indians, and now a group of people that have decided it's hateful are making a lot of noise. And this woman, I apologize, no disrespect, I can't remember your name, but it's not
Ruth.
It's a divided issue, but it's a majority. They voted in one of the reservations in the state to approve the name. What happened at the other reservation? They wouldn't allow a vote because they knew they would approve it. The elders had control. They would not allow their people to vote. That is not false. That were the facts. They did not have a referendum. They did not have. Now, let's talk about the get over it aspect. My family's Irish, okay? And a lot of my uncles were drunken, fighting Irish. It doesn't make them bad people. There's a long history of drunk Irish people. Some of them handled it better than others. But when I look at the fighting Irish of Notre Dame, I don't go, oh, they're picking on my drunk uncle. I go, they're proud of their Irish heritage. The St. Patrick's Day is celebrated in this country enormously around copious amounts of green beer. Now, for some people, that's a lot of fun. Tragically, that woman that called in and has a family member struggling with alcoholism. Tragically, Indians have had a history of struggling with alcoholism. God bless them for trying to help themselves and get better and whatever. But because someone put something on a T-shirt, this is America. The politically correct police cannot drag people out of a drunken party because they're wearing a stupid T-shirt. Get over it. Thanks, Scott.
Steve, appreciate the call, and Ruth will let you respond to that.
Well, Native Americans did not establish St. Patrick's Day, nor do we make shirts that denigrate Irish people. So, that's one side of it. And as far as him saying that, all Sioux tribes are in favor of the Fighting Sioux, or they were, that's not true. The Spirit Lake Nation, by the way, the people who contacted me about this who were offended were from Spirit Lake, were the ones who voted on it. And there were representatives from the University of North Dakota Athletic Department who went out to Spirit Lake and basically campaigned to have them have this vote and have it approved. But there are lots of other
She says that like that's a bad
I was
thing.
born in Fort Yates. I was born in Fort Yates on the Standing Rock Res. I will say the majority of people there do not or did not approve of Fighting Sioux. South Dakota
Let's not go there today. We fought that battle before. I think the caller has some points that the tribal council didn't want to call the vote because they knew the answer. I think some of the national polls prove that the majority of Native Americans support the use of names. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the T-shirts. Let's stick to that. Randy Bismarck, last call for our guest. Go ahead.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Rob. Hey, Martha, is it? Hey,
Ruth.
I just got a point here. I mean, why is she lumping all Indians in this whole fight against it? If it's the Fighting Sioux, shouldn't the Sioux be offended, not a Chippewa or the Lakota or anything like that? Because I have a buddy who's a sergeant in the United States Marine. He's Chippewa, and when this whole debate came up about the logo for the UND, he said keep the logo, put Fighting Chippewas on there. He wouldn't be offended. And if Irish are offended, don't they got white skin? So if the Irish are offended, should we lump all white people in there should be offended? I don't understand.
All right, quick response, Ruth. Quick response, Ruth, if you would.
Well, as far as tribes are organized, the quote Sioux people who are Chepe Shakowi, or Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, are Native American as far as racial category. So, and we have a lot in common. I guess you would call it pan-Indianism is the term used, where Native Americans have a lot in common with each other as Indigenous people. So that's how we relate to each other in that form. But yes, it was pointed at Sioux people specifically.
All right, you heard two perspectives from Rob Port, Say Anything blog, and Ruth Hopkins, Native American journalist for The Last Real Indian. Thank you both, by the way, for weighing in on a spirited debate here today. We appreciate it. We'll keep reading you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
When we come back, Ray, who's in Northwest South Dakota, Standing Rock member, disagrees with Ruth and wants to weigh in. We'll give the callers the last word here. Who's right? Ruth, Rob, on this T-shirt controversy. 800-228-0550. More after this on What's on Your Mind.
Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Find the easy links at whatsonyourmindradio.com.
Not to consider it harassment, to consider it reflective on the person that does it, wears it, says it, does it, but don't looking to be outraged. Here's one last call.
Yeah, good morning, Scott. Yeah, earlier it was kids and tractors. Okay, when my dad was 9 years old, he broke 30 acres of sod in the hills with a one-bottom plow and 3 horses. When he would hit a rock, the plow would tip over. Now get this, 9 years old. He would tip the plow back up again with a pole that he had hanging on the plow. The most my dad ever weighed, he was 139 pounds when he got back from the Army. Most of his life, it was between 112 and 120.
I love the story. Now, that's some good old-fashioned North Dakota character for you. By the way, started doing it at 9. I love it. See you tomorrow, folks. God bless you, and thank you for listening to What's on Your Mind. Farmers Union Oil Company, the Cenex stores that have been serving the communities of Stanley, Tioga, and the surrounding area for 71 years have a brand new name, Pinnacle, serving excellence. And the Pinnacle Travel Plazas in Stanley and Tioga are the place to go if you're headed for the Bakken. Great food. That's right. Stop in and find home cooking, just like Mama used to make. All kinds of great daily lunch and dinner specials prepared by their executive chef. All kinds of great grab-and-go items, burgers, fries, onion rings, mozzarella sticks, chicken drummies, popcorn chicken, chicken strip baskets. The Piccadilly Pizza is fantastic. Personal pan size, medium and large, order in or take out. They have catering available too, a great bakery department, and a sit-down eating area. Come on in and enjoy good old-fashioned home cooking at the Pinnacle Travel Plazas, right off Highway 2 in Stanley, or just north of Highway 2 on Highway 40 in Tioga. Pinnacle, serving excellence.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for $35,000. You heard right, that's 5,000 square feet for $35,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100-foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Call 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey Guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit GoBerkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey Guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products, most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey Guy at GoBerkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey Guy.
You have all seen and heard about the elements of the periodic table. These elements are the building blocks of everything in the universe. You, my friends, are made from these elements. A shortage of any of these important trace elements can lead to disease. Go with the science and take the Lady Talk Health Challenge and get all 90 essential trace elements with a healthy start pack at LadyTalkLive.com. Or call 855-333-LADY. That's 855-333-5239.
Research shows it's not just what you put in your body that counts, it's what you put on it as well. Why not use an all-natural, healthy mineral-based makeup that actually benefits your skin? Once you experience the airiness and flawless coverage of Longevity mineral makeup, you will never use anything else. With Longevity, the perception of your complexion will be natural perfection. Animal-friendly mineral makeup at Mary Lou Health. That's MARILU Health.com or call 855-321-HEALTH.